Okay, listen. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that Kirby 64's commercial is the best one. It isn't. Go check out the Kirby's Avalanche commercial or Dreamland 2 for games that we're covering this month. But look at this little puppy. Oh, little puppies. Before diving any deeper into the video, if you like what you see and you want to help me out, please consider thinking this video is the best by giving it a like. Tell me what your thoughts are on Kirby 64 in the comments, and ring the notification bell after subscribing to really help me out. You can find me on Twitch, join my Discord server, or follow me on Twitter if you like me that much, but regardless, I appreciate it. And if you enjoy a video like this, then I'm making a ton of videos like it, and Kirby 64 is the 6th video in the series. Check out the playlist if you want to see more. Now then. Ripple Star, home of the fairies. Here, the crystal is kept safe and sound from harm. That is, until returning villain Dark Matter shows up to try and take it. The Fairy Queen sends Ribbon, a brave little fairy, to escape with it as Ripple Star is engulfed in darkness. Unfortunately, Ribbon can't escape Dark Matter, but she refuses to let go of the crystal, until it's broken into several shards. Falling on Popstar, specifically falling onto a relaxing Kirby's head, she explains her plight. Kirby, always happy to help, sets out on a journey with her to save the day and find all of the crystal shards. Alright, so I know every time that literally anybody talks about Kirby 64, all they ever talk about is this point, so I'm gonna get it out of the way nice and early. Say it with me now. You can combine abilities together. Take fire, for example. This regular fire is cool and all, but you can get big fireball. If you hit a shoulder button and throw this spiky thing at an enemy, that would give you fire. But of course, it doesn't stop there, since you can combine any ability with any other ability. So if you opt for fire and cutter, you get the fire sword. If you ignore fire at all and go for, let's say, cutter and bomb, you get a cool little ninja shuriken. Half the fun with this game is just goofing around and experimenting with different ability ideas. Destroying things with spark and stone is very fun for some, while going skiing as ice plus cutter is better for others. The ability mixing gives you an unprecedented amount of abilities to toy around with, and abilities aren't particularly hard to find. This is a Kirby game after all. There's nothing stopping you from either blasting through the game with your favorite combinations, or constantly changing it up with different ones. The game wants you to experiment, but is built in a way where you can still stick with your favorites. And regardless of which combination you stick with, you're going to love what you see. Kirby 64 is a technical masterpiece, a true showing of what the N64 could pull off. Characters look incredible, expressive even, which subconsciously gives you more of an attachment to them. Kirby character design is always great, but this is the first time we've really gotten to see Kirby look like this. Not just because it's 3D and all of that, but look at these facial expressions. This is the most charming that Kirby has ever looked to this day. And the environments? Oh man, the whole world of Kirby 64 is just so full of personality and life. These genuinely feel like locations that you could visit, and not just because the backgrounds look good or whatever. Things are so meticulously detailed and vibrant, and the simple experience of experiencing what these levels and worlds have to offer is a delight. Even some of the more video gamey levels, like exploring a level on the clouds and being shot out of these cannon-like enemies. They're called the Zebons, okay? Even for levels like these, the visuals are so charming and expressive and fun. You just love being here, playing the game and seeing the sights. Of course, I'd be pretty dumb if I didn't mention how much of the heavy lifting the camera does too. Kirby 64 takes full advantage of the fact that it's a 2.5D game. The movement may be 2D, but the characters and backgrounds are full 3D. Moving through levels and seeing the camera shift focus to make it look like Kirby is moving in different directions, or zooming out to expand the scope and size of each level as you move. Oh my god, it's so good! But why leave all of the fun for your eyes? Let your ears get in on some of the action with one of the best soundtracks in the entire series. Every Kirby game has a wonderful soundtrack, but very unique sound font aside, and that's the good kind of unique, I'm not trying to be pretentious here, a big reason for that is the tonal variety. There are a lot of cute and upbeat tracks, of course, but there's more intense tracks and even some spooky, darker ones that help give Kirby 64 its unique flair. Not to mention, the music helps you feel more engrossed with the experience. Not that it really needed the help, but with the music it feels more whole, complete, you know? Kirby 64 also gives Kirby new pals to tag around with for the adventure too. The animal buddies took the day off, but Ribbon, Waddle Dee, Adeline, and everyone's favorite king, not Kabula, Day-to-Day joined the adventure too. The cutscenes with these goofs in them are really charming and highlight Kirby 64's pretty strong story presentation. Kirby games are good at storytelling, but Kirby 64 stands out as the best game in the series for Kirby and friends, not just Kirby. Speaking of, all of these reasons are why Kirby 64 is so darn good. With that said, this was all kind of a time waster though. All I really needed to say was that there's an enemy in this game called Cha-Cha, and that they look like this while doing a little dance, and I think that really would have been enough. I mean, I know the video watch time has to be long and all, I'm just playing the YouTube game here, but still, this is pretty amazing, and it's kind of the only reason you need for Kirby 64 being the best in the series. The rest helps, but still. For those of you who are watching these videos as they release, you're all champs, but also not even one full day ago we talked about Kirby's Dream Land 3, a game that, while you could take steps to make it faster, could feel very slow. So what would you say if I told you that you can make a game even slower with even fewer ways to speed it up? Mix that all together and voila! Kirby 64. Okay, for starters, here's Kirby's walk speed. Here's his run speed. There's kinda no difference here, which is pathetic, especially after Dreamland 3. Oh, good grief. But Dreamland 3 also had a variety of ways to increase your speed, revolving around abilities and animal friends. The animal friends have been replaced, as mentioned earlier. Poor friends. And while the replacements offer a lot of character, they do nothing for the speed, flow, and overall feeling of the game. Day-to-Day feels strictly worse than Kirby in every regard, which is kind of sad since he kind of feels a lot like Kirby, except that he can't float or use abilities. He's stuck using a very, very, very slow hammer. But he can break walls. Great idea, right? Waddle Dee and Adeline are far less of an issue, but that doesn't mean that they're good. Adeline gives you food and power-ups every once in a blue moon, and Waddle Dee actually does a bunch of different things. Visually, anyway. As far as gameplay goes, most of them feel very similar, and big surprise, slow. This leaves the abilities to do the heavy lifting, and out of every single ability combination, guess how many of them do anything to boost your speed? Here's a reminder, there's a total of 36 unique ability combinations in the entire game. The answer? 5! There's fire, fire plus fire, ice plus stone of all things, technically stone plus cutter, but only if you get pitch, which is a 1 in 6 chance, ice plus cutter if you mash forward while using it. And that's all of them, yeah. That's not even 15% of the abilities in the entire game, and some of them don't work as well in the air. Oh, but how many abilities make Kirby move slower than his default walking speed? Now, I'm not talking about the ones where Kirby stands still. I specifically mean they make Kirby move slower. There's stone, ice, spark, cutter, stone plus stone, the other 5 variations of stone plus cutter, ice plus ice, needle plus bomb, spark plus spark, and cutter plus cutter. If we count stone plus cutter as one ability, just to do the game some favors, that's still 10 abilities. And fine, I can understand some of these, like stone, but considering your options are so dire to make Kirby move faster, having double the options to make Kirby specifically move slower and clunkier is an insult. And this is just Kirby's walking speed. I can give you more examples if we factor in his running speed, which remember is not that much faster at all. Having horrendously slow movement in a platformer is a death sentence. The feel of the character you're playing is key, and before long you're going to get annoyed at how bad and slow Kirby feels to control here. The game has other issues, don't get me wrong. It tries to put an emphasis on the story, but after the first 15-20 minutes, it basically gives up and feels really slapdash, something I don't think any other Kirby game really has to worry about. The boss fights may be spectacles, but that's all they are. These are the most pathetic boss fights in any Kirby game, and do little more than waste your time, something that Kirby 64 loves to do. Oh, and have I mentioned going for 100% yet? I could make this video like 15 minutes longer just complaining about that topic, but I have an entire video on this channel already devoted to talking about how bad it is to 100% it. I sound different as a warning, but if you can get over that, I'll have you watch that video so that I don't have to repeat myself or waste anybody's time, because Kirby 64 is doing enough of that already. At the end of the day, though, it all comes back to how much of a slog it is to play this game. Fully completing it, backtracking and all, would be so much more tolerable if Kirby didn't move so slow and feel so clunky. If the boss fights were still a joke but didn't move like they were 80 years old, they'd at least be fun to blast through really quick. Ability combinations that make you move slower wouldn't be as annoying, since their stronger offenses or general goofiness would shine through better. Heck, even the story would have benefited, not only in terms of what you feel as you experience the game, but the cutscenes would naturally be put closer together. It would at least feel better implemented, you know? Unfortunately, we can't have nice things. Kirby feels bad and slow, and that is ultimately why Kirby 64 is the worst game in the series. Alrighty then, we actually have a decent amount to talk about with my Discord server today. Of course, the first answer to the question that I got was about combining the abilities being really cool, but I actually did get some complaints here regarding the abilities. Some people preferring having a bunch of abilities over a few of them that you could combine together. The pacing of the game was definitely the biggest problem that my Discord had, but somebody said Kirby 64 was epic and left it there, so really, how bad could the opinions be? I want to love Kirby 64. There's so much here that I already do love, that I don't see very often, not only in other Kirby games, but other video games. You really feel like you're exploring these different lived-in worlds, regardless of if you just want to get to the end, or actually seek out 100%. Some of the best music in the series can be found here too, and I'm sure I don't need to talk any more about the visuals than I already have. There's fun side content, ability mixing is a blast, and getting help from your buddies throughout the game just kind of makes it feel like a whole experience. But I can't lie to all of you wonderful people, the pacing of this game drags it down so much for me. I am totally fine with playing a slower paced game. Yesterday, I guess spoilers if you haven't listened to me talk about Dreamland 3 yet, but I gushed about Dreamland 3, and that game can have very slow pacing. I literally said in the worst argument section, the game was best if you have insomnia and you need to sleep unless you die. But that's the important part, it can have slow pacing. You have simple and accessible options like a dash to help the game feel much faster. No matter what you do in Kirby 64, movement always feels slow and clunky to me. And unlike Dreamland 3, I actually have fallen asleep playing Kirby 64 in the past. I really like Kirby 64, but I can't say it's ever been one of my favorites. Fully completing it is a chore, parts of it feel like busy work, and most importantly, to me, moving in it feels bad. That doesn't nullify the things that I like about it, and at the end of the day, I would never call it a bad game, but would I ever call it one of my favorites? Absolutely not, but many people do, so clearly, the devs did something right here.